What is up, everyone? Welcome to another Naughty Egg Draws Egg Forge, where, as you probably already saw, I'm going to be doing my best to create an extremely realistic Pokeball with lights and buttons and lights on those buttons, so this is going to be absolutely awesome, so let's go catch them all. Alright, so to make this Pokeball, I needed first to make the Pokeball shell to get the right sizing down of everything. So to make things easier, I found these little half-sphere styrofoam balls to start with, and then I just laid out some flat sheets of clay over the styrofoam ball to start getting the top shell section built up. I wanted to make the shells about a centimeter thick, so I made sure to be as uniform as possible when I was laying the clay down. Once I had all the clay on here, I did my best to get all the bulges out and then brushed on some thinner to get rid of any fingerprints I may have left behind. Now, I really had to plan out the design of this piece since I was planning on casting molds for all the parts for this ball. And since I planned to have electronics in this, I couldn't just sculpt out the whole Pokeball in one piece. Making the shells separate from the base allowed me to be able to make separate molds of the intersection to make a cutout space for the battery, LEDs, and wires. Once I had everything sculpted, I baked the shell to make sure everything was rock solid, and then I went in with my Dremel and sandpaper to get rid of any bumps and ridges that were on here. And once I finished sanding it all down, I went in and used some body filler I have for my cars to cover up any pinholes, cracks, and divots in the clay. And basically I just repeated this step over and over of adding the filler and sanding it down until I was happy with how the surface looked. Now, to all the people who have come over recently, welcome to the channel, and it's all because of you guys that I'm actually making this video. And as tradition on my channel, I like to make Pokemon related videos every time I hit either a personal goal or any milestones on this channel. So thank you all for coming over, and I hope you guys enjoy this video, cause I had an absolute blast making it. Now, to make the mold of this shell, I took a board and cut it into, well, almost even sheets. Apparently I can't measure all that great, and one of these sections was a tad shorter than the others. Counting can be hard sometimes. But I took the 4 wells that I cut out and glued them together to give the ball a well to sit inside where I could pour the silicone mix into. And for this project, I am using Smooth-On's Silicone Quick Cast Rubber. This is normally my go-to when I'm making molds of something. It's not the cheapest thing in the world, but it's always been really reliable for me. After that was all set up, I took some plasticine clay and packed the base and the inside of the ball with it. Once everything was packed, I just had to press the ball into the clay with some decent force to really make sure everything was sealed up fairly well. This will allow me to make a 2-part push mold. Once one side is cast, I can just flip it over and make the other side. Now, I haven't made a push mold in a long time, at least since I was in college, so I was a little nervous that I was going to screw something up when I was making it. But I was pretty happy when I opened it all up, took all the clay out that I packed in there, and I had a beautiful mold of the Pokemon shell. Now, I remembered after I poured the silicone that I needed to probably pack the clay first, that way the walls would be a little more smooth, but it worked out well, and I mean, I may make another mold at some point. This one still works, but I could do it the right way down the road. I just didn't want to waste all the silicone that I had already poured. Now, to make the cast of all the parts, I used epoxy resin. I did this for 3 reasons. 1, I didn't have any smooth-on plastic left. 2, I know the strength and weight of the resin would be perfect for what I wanted for this. And 3, I intended to have the middle section of the ball glow, and I could keep the resin clear, and then with the LEDs, it would do the job perfect. Now, the only part that is hard with resin that I just could not avoid with the tools I have at home is its ability to cause bubbles during the hardening phase. With how thick the pores were and without having a pressure pot, I was only able to remove the bubbles that rose to the top during the working time of the resin. Maybe next time down the road, if I make another one of these, I'll have a pressure pot at that point to make things absolutely perfect. But as of right now, I don't have one. Now, one thing I wish I would have done just a little bit better was the middle section of this ball. I wish that I had made the gap a tad bit smaller. I still love the way that it all came out, but with that gap the size that it is, it didn't really make the ball a perfect sphere in the end. But don't get me wrong, this thing turned out absolutely amazing. And to make this mold for this piece, I did the same thing that I did with the shells and just used the 4 walls I already cut out before to give myself the ability to pour in the silicone rubber. And then once everything was poured and hardened, I just went in and sanded down any little imperfections that came from the pouring process. Now, the wiring for this ball was actually pretty easy once I figured out what post went to what thing on the switch. Doing something like this, I always suggest testing everything beforehand and then marking it all so that you don't end up soldering all the wires on and then find out you did everything backwards. Alright, so all the parts are all poured, they're hardened, they're sanded smooth, and they need paint. These don't quite look like Pokeballs yet. They need some paint on here to really pull things together. So I think while I'm waiting for paint layers to dry, I'm going to make a really cool glowing base for this thing to sit on. I think that would be pretty cool. So let's get going. Okay, so to make this glowing base, I used this wood stand that I got from a hobby shop, along with an acrylic ring that is made to hold and display baseballs. I drilled a spot for the battery pack to lay in, and then drilled out 2 slots for the red LEDs to slot into. And then I just did a simple wire job of bridging the 2 LEDs to a small battery pack that had a nice little switch on it to make it nice and easy for me. Once I had everything in place, I used some super glue to secure the ring to the base, and then poured in some resin, keeping the bubbles actually this time, because I thought it would actually make a really cool effect. Now, for the paint of the Pokeball, I really wanted to make it look really worn and weathered, like it had been the first Pokeball the adventurer ever had when he started his journey. To achieve this, I painted it all with just a layer of spray paint, and then took a razor blade to cut out chunks from the ball to reveal the metal underneath. And to give the metal look underneath, I just used some silver acrylic paint and then brushed it into those cuts. And to finish off the paint job, I added the cool little electric symbol that was on Ash's Pokeball that was supposed to be for Pikachu. And once everything was all done, I just blasted it with a couple layers of clear coat and I was done. So let's take a closer look at the finished results of this build. Alright everyone, the Pokeball is all done. It's so cool. I love the way that this thing turned out. It's so cool, it's getting a front row spot on my very cluttered shelf of nerd. Now this piece definitely has its flaws, but I did make molds of everything, so I can make more of these. And I can take the mistakes I learned making this one and make an even better one next time. I also want to take a second to thank all my patrons. Projects like this definitely are not cheap. So having you guys over there each month backing me helps me so much, and I'm so thankful for all that you guys do. Now, if you want to go over there and check out my Patreon, you want to see more projects, bigger projects like this, go over there. You can get some really cool stuff, cool updates and photos of everything of these projects before these videos even come out. So you're going to know way before anyone else what my next video is going to be. So click on the link below, or you can go to patreon.com/naughtyeggdraw. But that's it, everyone. That is the Pokeball. This thing turned out absolutely awesome. And again, thank you to everyone who has come over recently. Welcome to the channel. And thank you to everyone who has been here watching these videos. And like always, keep drawing, and until next time, bye.